Hi, I'm Natalie Mullen, former people pleaser and queen of doing way too much, turned holistic life coach and wellness educator for purpose seeking women of color and allies. Welcome to From a Full Cup. On this podcast, I teach you how to use the 12 pillars of wellness to discover your purpose, uplevel your well being, and create the life of your dreams because we all deserve to be fulfilled, and you simply can't pour from an empty cup. Through candid conversations, insightful interviews, and motivational nuggets, you'll feel inspired, empowered, and supported as together we navigate this thing called life, holistically and with your well being at the center. If you're committed to personal development and you're ready for more, you're in the right place. Now let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of From a Full Cup, a space to learn, grow, and prioritize your well being because you know what they say, you can't pour from an empty cup. Here we promote disruptive wellness, actively reclaiming your well being in a way that's aligned for you. Now, before we get into today's topic, let's do a wellness check. This is a time to check in with yourself and just acknowledge how you're doing. A moment to pause, reflect, and ground yourself. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel right now? Did you fill your cup today? What did you do for your wellness? I know for me, I've been really intentional about a fall reset this entire month of September. And one of the things that I've been doing, including today, is going for a lunchtime walk. Now, this is purposeful because I get my steps in. I make sure to do a 10 to 12K walk, and I also get some fresh air. But I also just get out the house, I get away from the computers, and it's just really a time for me to be by myself. I'm also so excited to be relaunching this podcast after being on summer hiatus, and I'm also setting goals for my personal life as well as my business. And of course, my public speaking engagements are picking up. So, side note, if you do want me to speak to your organization about well being, burnout recovery, or self care, holler at your girl. I would be happy to. All right, so today's topic is about a question I ask all of my coaching clients, and it's one that they struggle to answer at first. The question is, what do you want? It's really hard to think about our well being and how we might be filling our cups if we don't even know what it is that we want. We might fill our cups with coffee and then realize after taking a sip, we actually wanted kombucha. And now we have to throw out the coffee and start again. What does that lead to? Wasted efforts. We might think we want career accolades and titles, but then when all the stress piles on, we realize that all we really wanted to do was spend time with our loved ones. Again, wasted efforts. So let's explore this question, and I'll guide you through some actionable steps to help you start uncovering that answer for yourself. And by the end of the episode, you'll have clarity and tools to begin pursuing a life that feels fulfilling, aligned, and truly yours. Now, since I've been small, I've always been a dreamer. So it's easy for me to sit there and rattle off a long list of things that I want. But I had never really taken the time to holistically go through all the areas of my life and write it down on paper, aka Google Docs. Writing it down gave me more clarity as I was able to confront my own inner desires and challenge myself. Some of the areas you might want to ask yourself about is what do I want in my career, my health, my spirituality, my finances, my family, my friendships, my personal life. Now, before we can get to answering the question of what we really want, we need to think about why does this question matter in the first place? Well, I'll tell you. Many of us are living on autopilot. We are just going, 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 and we're doing a lot of things. And most times, those things are for other people. It could be for our families, our jobs, our communities. But we're often so busy doing things for everybody else that we neglect to check in with ourselves and we lose track of our own desires. And the thing is, when you disconnect from what you want, your well being suffers. We're filling everybody else's cup, but we're never stopping to refill our own. So there's the question again, what do you want? And I don't want you to think about what you should want because a lot of times, just the pressure of society, pressure of our families, and just other loud voices, often we just go along with what somebody else told us, right? But then we realize, like, wait, I don't actually want this. So I'm asking you, what do you want? What makes you feel alive, excited, and fulfilled? This isn't just about material things or career goals or aspirations. It's about alignment at the core with your values and your purpose. So now once we figure out why it's important to answer this question, we need to identify what are the barriers that would get in the way of identifying what we want. The first one I would say is fear. Oftentimes, we're afraid that if we admit what we want, it might disrupt the status quo. It'll shake people up. They'll get in their feelings. They won't approve. And it might require making some tough changes. Or, heaven forbid, we might have to disappoint others. And that can be very hard, especially for my fellow people pleasers out there. Well, actually, I'm in recovery, and I hope you'll get here too. It's a great place to be. Another reason why we might face a barrier is because there's just a lot of noise. This, I think, is a big one. I actually think it's bigger than the fear one. I think life is just noisy. People are not used to having quiet to really sit and focus on themselves and their own thoughts and their own desires. There are always so many external influences. It might be family, social media, society, work, friends. There's just always something making noise, cluttering your brain, and it's really hard to get in tune with your inner voice. And it's really easy to make other people's wants your own. So many times we sit on social media and we're scrolling, and you might think to yourself, like, yeah, this is the life I want. But then when you stop and think about it, you're like, is it? Is this actually the life I want? And that's why it's so important to make that space for reflection. Lastly, I would say it's just a lack of time. Sometimes we're so busy focusing on survival, just getting through the day, just getting from morning to night, taking care of all the responsibilities, crossing things off the to do list, that we just don't have time on our to do list to think about what we want. It's just not one of the priorities of the day. And so, my hope is that today we're going to change that and we're going to put you as the priority. So, let's get practical. How can we figure out what we want? So I would suggest to you three steps that you can start taking to uncover what you really want in life. The first is to create quiet time for reflection. I honestly think that if you can get quiet time away, it is so restorative and so eye opening. You can do this in different ways. You can go for a walk, or you can just sit in a room with your door closed and your phone far away from you. Whatever it is that you can get that quiet, undistracted time to just think. And then you should schedule it. So I would suggest scheduling at least 30 minutes for this activity. It could be first thing in the morning or before bed, but whenever you can, just use that time to ask yourself, what do I want? And I don't want you to filter your answers. Just let them flow. Like write everything out on a paper. It's okay. You can scratch things out after. You can move things around. You can put arrows and, you know, you can manipulate the answers after. But for now, you just want to get everything out. You just want to give a mic to your inner voice and really give it the spotlight for a bit. You can also just journal. So if you find it really hard to answer that question, you can just start with the question like, what do I want? Well, I think I might want XYZ. Or one day I might want da da da. Or somebody in my shoes might want da da da. Sometimes it's actually easier to write what somebody else would want, but really that person is a reflection of you. But if you're not used to surfacing your voice so often, it might be easier to think about it through an imaginary friend. It's all good. We all have imaginary friends. And if you're struggling to answer those questions, then maybe start with some higher level questions like what excites me? What would my dream day look like? What would my dream job look like? What's been missing from my life? And then that's a good place to start because kind of sometimes when you figure out, well, what's not there, then you figure out, okay, well, what do I wish was there instead? Now, the second tip is to listen to your body. And I really believe, and I've spoken about this on the podcast multiple times, about the mind body connection. And I believe that the body often gives you clues about what you want. So I want you to think about the last time that you felt like an inner tingle where you were actually excited, you were joyful. Okay. And then I want you to think about times where you just felt calm, like you felt safe, you felt at ease, and you felt comfortable. What were you doing in these experiences? What were the activities? Who were you with? Pay attention to those moments because the body is giving you clues. On the flip side, I want you to also think about, when do you feel really tense and stressed, or when do you feel exhausted and drained? That's also your body's way of telling you something isn't quite aligned here. And then those might be activities that you need to stop doing because they're not in alignment with what you actually want. So pay attention to your body and start tuning into those signals because they will really guide you and be your North Star. And the last tip I have for you is to take small steps towards what you want. Once you start to gain some clarity, you might feel really compelled to just, make a whole bunch of changes at once, but it usually isn't sustainable. So, what I always tell my coaching clients is, if we just want to start with small baby steps, maybe you've realized that you want more time for yourself. Okay. Can you do something that gives you 10 minutes a day for yourself? And what activity would you use during that time? Would you want to do reading or meditating or working out? Or do you want to just sit there on your couch and look at the wall? There's no judgment from me. It's about what you want. What is going to feel good for you? Or maybe you've realized that what you want is actually a career change. I know this is a big one, just based on my experience, just talking to so many women through my coaching, but also through my Dream Big project. There are so many women out there who are just interested in pursuing career changes. And I've even had a lot of people ask me about my own career change. They're wondering, how do they make that happen? And so if you're interested, just take the first step. That might just be updating your resume or looking up company reviews on Glassdoor. Maybe it's attending a networking event or redoing your LinkedIn profile. Just small little things towards your goal, because small, consistent steps are what lead to big transformations. For today's call to action, I want you to declare what you want out loud. It's one thing to write it down on paper or write it down on a Google Doc, but there's a shift that happens when you say it out loud. I want this and I'm going after it. It sends a message to your brain that you're serious. And then guess what? Things will just start to happen because you spoke it into being. So I want you to declare what you want. I invite you to say today's affirmation with me. I know what I want, and I'm creating the life that aligns with my deepest desires. If you've gotten this far, well, you have an idea of what you want. So the only other question I have for you is, what are you going to do about it? This week, I want you to reflect on what you want, but then also think about, what are the action steps you can take towards making those things a reality. And don't worry about rushing the process. It's okay if you don't have all the answers. Just keep asking, keep listening, and keep taking small steps towards a life that's going to be fulfilling for you. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend. I'd also love to hear what you discovered during your reflection. Please remember to subscribe to this podcast. It helps more people find it and spread the message of wellness. Take care of yourself, prioritize your well being, and give yourself grace. Until next time, continue to serve yourself, your loved ones, and your community from a full cup.